Because when you do it to one, you're doing it to all. I know nice people, but it's not about being nice, who would never stand up. And that's not good. And you cannot trust that. But I know other people who would stand up. Early in ministry, I remember there was a situation, I wasn't used to it, because before you're in ministry, I've shared this before, but before you're kind of in the spotlight, when you're in the spotlight, it doesn't matter who you are, everything comes at you. You don't deserve the praise, you don't deserve the condemnation. It's just, it's about the Lord, but that's what happens. But I remember, I said, wow, I never experienced this before. Someone was complaining about the pastor who now was me. They complained about the one before, but it doesn't matter. But now it was me. And one person stood up and said, that's wrong, stop it. And I knew from then on I could trust totally that person. Because God allows things to happen as well. There's a quality of godly faithfulness and loyalty. It's not blind loyalty. It's not to a person. It's to God. But that loyalty to God and that faithfulness to God has to translate to our faithfulness to our wives and our husbands and our children and our brothers and sisters in the Lord and our ministries and all things. That's what it is. If something could be harmful to the body, you need to be strong about that. There are there is a higher loyalty to God. There are sometimes people who don't want to stand up for something. Well, I don't want to do it. This person's going to be mad if I report that this is happening. God will be upset if you saw something that could cause harm to a brother or sister or the kingdom and you didn't do anything and you didn't let people know. It would be disloyal to God. It'd be like someone saying, I'm planting a bomb here, and you say, well, I don't want the person to be mad at me, so I don't want to get in trouble. Loyalty or faithfulness means sometimes disagreeing. It doesn't mean someone who's saying yes all the time to someone. It means you say the truth in love, whatever that is. There was someone once who I knew in the Lord who told me that as a child, they used to play dodgeball in school. How many people remember in school, they'd put half the people on one side of the gym, half the people on the other side, they get those rubber brown balls, and you'd be throwing it across, and if you got hit, you're out. If you caught it, the other person was out. Do you remember that? How many people did that? It was one of the torture tactics that they did in the public school system. And so there's one person who said the technique is that they were always the last person standing, on one side. And said the reason was they never caught a ball, never tried to catch a ball, never threw the ball. All they did was be in back of everybody else. But in the end, they'd be the last person standing, and all the balls would come at them. And I said, it's interesting. I realized as I watched their actions, I thought that person's still doing that in life. It was a person who would never stick their neck out for another person. It was a person who just basically seemed to be looking out for themselves. And people ended up losing respect for that person. And things came back to them. Same thing. And I knew I really couldn't put a lot there. A bunch of pastors were on a panel, and people asked them, what do you look for in choosing a leader? And they asked qualities of prayer. I said it's important. Spirituality is important. Gifts are important. Gifted in the Lord. But they said one thing above the rest. They said faithfulness, loyalty, faith. Because it doesn't matter if you are the most gifted person in the world. If you pray 10 hours a day, but you are not a faithful person, the enemy can use you as he did. If Judas might have been a prayer warrior, who knows? But there was no faithfulness. The most dangerous people in an army are those who have no faithfulness. Even in peacetime, the Cold War. These are the ones who gave away secrets. The enemy knows in the kingdom that's what he will look for. In the body, he will always seek that. Faithfulness is linked to faith. In Hebrew, the word for faith is emunah. You know it. Many of you say it, though. Emunah means faith, but it also means, the same word for faith also means faithful. The faith person is going to be faithful. It also means steadfast, like dependable, a person of integrity. People of faith, true faith, are loyal people. I don't care what is preached about faith preaching, the faith, the idea that faith is, I want this, I say this, I get this. That's not summing up what faith is. And a true faith-filled person is a faithful person who stands in good times and bad. And you look at the scriptures and you see them. For instance, we mentioned on Friday night Orpah, but what about Ruth? Ruth is a person of faithfulness, loyalty. She sacrifices her own future for her love for her mother-in-law. And whatever that, she'll stay. Wherever you go, I go. Wherever you dwell, I dwell. Where you die, I die. And I'm going to go with you no matter what. She sacrifices everything for her love for another person, putting Naomi above herself. And because of her loyalty, Boaz sees it. He hears of her loving kindness, and he says, you got to bless this one, and God is going to bless her with marriage, with motherhood, everything. But that's the kind of person Ruth was. David, he was also a faithful person. Remember about David. Remember in David, Saul was trying to kill him, and then he had the moment. Saul was there in the dark and in the cave, and David could kill Saul right there. But he didn't. He cut off his part of his garment to take it with him. And then he said, here I am. I could have killed you. But he would not kill you. He said, I will not touch God's anointed. That's a faithful man. Even though Saul is trying to kill him, he refuses to touch a hair of Saul's head because he fears God. He is a faithful man. David and Jonathan, they make a covenant with each other. Here's Jonathan, the prince. He's supposed to be the next king, but he has more loyalty to David. Love and faithfulness to David. And he lifts up David even though David would be the next king. And David lifts up Jonathan. And to the day comes when Saul and Jonathan are killed on Mount Gilboa, and David openly mourns him, even his enemy Saul. How the mighty have fallen, he says. Cursed is this mountain. May it never have dew anymore and no growth on this mountain. And he cursed those who went again, even though he's going to be king. His heart was grieving, even for his enemies. You can go, I've heard that Mount Gilboa today does not grow. And this is what he cursed. David.